All right, can you believe it? We are already done with quarter one. How did that happen? So let's talk about what can you do to reflect on Q1 and what power moves can you be making to really take on Q2. All right, friends, let's talk about Q1. I don't know how it happened, but I blinked and we are already through the first quarter of the year. So I want to chat with you a little bit. I love to share, and we get questions sometimes on what do I do and what does my team do? How do they support us when it comes to planning for, our focuses for the year, for reflecting. So whether you are someone who just has personal goals that you like to set up and think about those each quarter or for the year, if you're somebody who's a small business owner and you have a small team that you're really looking at, how can I leverage my team and really think through to make sure I'm meeting my goals, or if you're a leader in an organization and you have your own personal team or organizational goals, wherever you're at, I have some tips for you and some lessons that I want to share. So if you listened to a previous episode of mine where we talked about how we recap our year, I also have an episode out there on what did we do as a team to plan for the year. So if you didn't listen to those and you're interested, go back and check those out. I talk about what we do to really plan for the whole year, as well as what tools do we have, what things do we usually have with us when we do it. And so I wanted to give you a little update on, now that we got done with Q1, what are some of the things that we did to reflect on the first quarter. I want you to think about one of the things when I'm talking to individuals in terms of coaching with our personal goals, or when I'm working with business owners or leaders in organizations, oftentimes a challenge is we might set those goals and we might have that all that momentum at the beginning. But if we're not constantly checking in on those things and seeing, first of all, how are we tracking on those goals? Where are we getting roadblocks? Is everyone still aligned with that? Does anything need to change based on something that came up? How do your personal goals integrate with this? How are you doing in aligning your values to your vision? Like, all of these things are important. And so if we don't do that and all of a sudden we get towards the end of the year, that's where we miss our goals. That's where we are not on track, or we started showing up and we were misaligned because something in our life changed, our priorities changed, and we didn't go back and revisit our goals. And so we get to the end and all of a sudden we're like, I didn't get done what I want to do. So that's why this is so important. So one of the things that I had shared that I did for my business and that we did with our team is at the start of the year, we really looked back at the previous year, and then we chose what we wanted to focus on for 2025. So we had this whole planning document that focused on our word that we wanted to focus on the year, our intention for the year, how we wanted to feel. But then also we identified our big priorities for the year. We identified things that we were going to let go of and stop doing or look at doing differently, and had kind of our big milestones, as well as I had identified my revenue goals that I had for each quarter, how many clients we had, what our business was going to look like, where we were going to, get the revenue from, the different buckets of revenue. So all of those things are part of that planning. So when we come to the end of Q1 then, and now it's time to sit down, and we did this as a team. When you're listening to this, we did this the other week. And now we get to sit down and we get to look at and say what went well in Q1. So how did we feel? What were some of those wins? Celebrating, again, not only how did we feel, and for us, for me, it's really important from a health standpoint. Did I feel in alignment, and are we helping our clients in the right way? Are we focused on the right things? And then my own personal goals that I set as well. So I kind of encompass it all in there. So we really sat down and looked at what were the wins, how much outreach this can be really humbling. So let me just say why this is important. Sometimes, if we're not talking to someone else about it, it can be easy for us to just kind of write it off and not address it. But when you have someone else, so if you have a team member, or if you have a mentor, or if you have like a trusted peer, or whatever it might be with your team, sharing some of those accountabilities can help hold your feet to the fire. Because I know when I first started in business, it could be easy to let some of my plans go because I wasn't telling anyone what they were. And so it's easy to just be like, oh, okay, well, whatever, I missed that goal. So that, and also it can be really humbling to look at the numbers. So one of our big initiatives is to really know and utilize our numbers more and more to help it tell a story for us, that the client journey story. How are we finding clients? What are the common themes of what they need? How much outreach are we doing? How much speaking am I doing? Like all of those things. So we sat down and looked at the numbers. What were our revenue numbers? Did we hit what we wanted to? How much outreach did we do? How much speaking did I do? all of those things. And of course, with that, there's some things that were like, oh my gosh, that was so exciting, we had a win. And then there were some things that I was like, oh my gosh, Julie, I can't believe that's the only thing that you did for this. So it's really helpful then, because then it can help you figure out, what do I need to do now in the next quarter to maybe pick up on some of the areas that I wasn't lacking, or that I was lacking in. So we looked at the numbers, we looked at how we felt, and then we looked at Q2. And now we really identified what are our targets for Q2, what are our focus areas, what do we need to focus in on as a team, how is this leading into our bigger goals for the year, how are we doing on our bigger goals. So all of this stuff can be really important. And then again, sort of setting, what numbers do we need to hit? What are those focus areas? And then also, again, bringing in those personal goals. So really thinking about, am I showing up the way they don't? If maybe you set the intention that you wanted to have more boundaries on your schedule and on your time, how are you doing with that? And what do you need to put in place in order to be able to fulfill that goal that's still a big priority for you? If you put that, your health was a big priority, you wanted to be going to the gym a certain amount of times, or drinking water, and as you're looking back and reflecting on that personal goal, you're going, wow, I kind of missed the mark on that one. Then what do you need to do now and put in place so that you don't miss that again this quarter? Also, just like the fun things, like if you wanted to try a new fitness class, or if you wanted to read a certain number of books, like all of those things, it's really important. And I find that the end of the quarter and the start of a new quarter is just a really good time to reset on all of those things. So for us, some of the things we were really excited about was, the launch of our Speaker Space Academy for going into our launch this year was great. We have a great group for the enrollment for that. Some great speaking things coming up, some awesome clients that we're working with, some really exciting initiatives for expanding and sort of rebranding the company as we look to bring on more support. And so all of those things. And then of course there was things that I looked at and I was like, wow, I said that I wanted to, fill out this many applications for speaking, or I wanted to reach out to this many people. Ooh, we kind of missed the mark. What got in the way? And how do we reset? Is it because the goal that I set was way off track? Was it because we hadn't planned for how we were going to achieve that? Or did life just happen and something crazy came up? So that's one thing I want you to think about, is because when we look at those numbers then, and we kind of hold up the mirror, we also don't want to just be ridden with guilt, like, oh, I said I was going to do all this stuff. It's really just an awareness. Have a curiosity of like, what happened? Where was the miss? So that okay, why didn't we meet this goal? Again, was it because we weren't clear on what the goal was? Is because it was just way off and we need to kind of adjust for a more realistic but stretch goal? Is it that goal isn't really aligned for us anymore? Is it that, again, something crazy came and just totally changed your focus? So this is a great time for you to reset and do that. There's a lot of things that we're super excited about that we're focusing on for the rest of the year, but also there's things that we've had to let go of. And that can be really hard, for myself just personally, but also as I talk to clients, like sometimes we have to when we look at big things that happened to us, or priorities that changed, or just knowing that we need to focus on something else for whatever reason. Sometimes that requires us to make really tough decisions and let go of things that we like, or sometimes it's things we like, or maybe it's things that you are just holding on to. This was actually a conversation that we just had. That's been a big part of our process this year. It was thinking about how can we simplify, how can we streamline, how can we focus on the key things that we know are really getting us traction, moving the needle. And so we already started to kind of let go of and change the way we're doing things, but there's still a couple things. And we were just talking about this. There's still a couple things that I'm doing that we're really reflecting and going, why are you still doing it? And it was really interesting because even though I know it's something I probably should let go of, right? That should word, shoulding on ourselves, but sometimes it's for a reason because we say should. So there's this thing that, there's multiple things, but there's this thing that we were like, why are you still doing it? How does it make you feel? Is it getting you the results that you want? Like, why are you still holding on to this? Because it's not necessarily, sometimes we just do the things because we think we should, or because we're scared of letting them go, even though they're really not getting us where we want to go. Hopefully you're tracking with me here, right? I don't want to give this exact example, but you probably can think of something right now that you're doing. And this might be a task that you're doing in your business. This might be a task you're doing in your work. This might be something that you just keep doing it. And it's like this fear of letting it go. Even though when you really critically think about it, it's not actually doing that much for you. Like maybe it's just taking time and energy and effort that you could put somewhere else. Or maybe it's something that you're just kind of like okay about, or maybe it's not actually getting the results you want, but it's just the idea of letting it go feels like you're missing out on something. It feels like, well, I just feel like I should be doing that thing. And if I don't do it, what if it was going to turn it? Like this is the game I was playing myself, is like, okay, I just kept doing this thing and feeling resistance around it every time I do it. But it was this little bit of that, like, but what if I did put energy and focus on it? And it really would really help my business, or it really would help me make all these connections. And one of the things that we talked about, one of the things I had to reframe was to go, but you had the last year to do that, right? Like, why weren't you doing? There's a reason you weren't doing it. And when I really think about that, I was like, yeah, I guess I'm not that excited about this thing. It doesn't really excite me that much, nor is it really moving the needle on the things that we need to be doing. And so those can be those tough things, but that's something to really sit with and think about, is like, what am I doing now that either no longer feels good, that I'm just doing because I feel like I should do it, but when you really think about it, it's like, maybe I should let that go and I could use my time for something else, because our time is precious, right? And also thinking about, maybe this just isn't where I should be spending my time. And maybe now's the time that you decide to make a change in doing that. And that can be tough, but that's part of the growth too, is figuring out, what do I need to let go of that's no longer serving me? That might be a task, or that might be a thought, right? So we talk about this like energy that we bring to the tasks we're doing, and those limiting thoughts that we have. And maybe it's like this thought is really limiting me. And it's time I need to let go of that, because it's not serving me in the goals that I have and what I want to do in the next quarter. And so the last thing I want you to think about is, as we're coming in, this is like an exciting slate, as we're coming into the new quarter, whether you feel like you rocked this last 3 months, or you just like laid down and were like, okay, when is it over? You get the choice now to see this as a new opportunity. And so I was thinking about what I want to talk with you all today, and I was thinking about these power moves. So just literally think about like making your move of this, like, what are these power moves that if you did this quarter, you would just feel, show up, act, or get results that just were like, you just feel so confident, you feel so powerful. What are your power moves for Q2? When I think of that, I'm like, that can help me to eliminate in my head getting rid of the things that aren't that, right? Because when I think of a power move, I'm like, ooh, I am in my positive energy. I'm in my confidence. I'm taking bold action. I'm doing things that stretch me, that make me uncomfortable, like power moves. When I keep saying that and I think about that, I can think of things that I'm doing that aren't power moves. So I'm curious for you, what are those power moves that you can make in this quarter that would just totally change things for you, whether it's actions you take or the way that you're showing up? Hopefully this was helpful for you as I process what we did and I share for you what you're doing. Of course, share with me. I would love to hear what stood out for you and what are your power moves for the quarter to help you achieve all of your 2025 goals.